All right, Harrisonburg, you know what time it is.
You're listening to the Sam and Dan Show every Wednesday, 6 to 7. And, well, I shouldn't say every Wednesday now because this is actually our last show, the grand finale. We're gonna hit you guys with a lot of information tonight.
We're gonna be sending it home. In the studio live with us right now, we've got West Virginia Rob.
How's it going?
Yeah.
All right, you're coming in loud and clear. Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. Rob's coming in good.
All right, folks. So, special broadcast. For those who don't know, this is unfortunately our last show this semester. The hosts after us were gracious enough to finally give us their time slot so we could give the people what they really want, which is 2 straight hours
nonstop info
of the Sam and Dan Show.
Yeah, and allow me to say, go ahead. Get nice and comfy. Sit down in your chair if you're driving.
Some popcorn.
Yeah, get some popcorn. Get a tall drink next to you. Water. Stay hydrated so your brains is,
ready to go.
Yeah.
Nice and plastic.
Firing on all cylinders.
Get your paper and pen.
Yeah.
Write some notes.
Yeah, exactly.
If
sit
you
down,
want
relax.
to.
Yeah.
All is just suggested.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
Highly suggested.
Maybe a mug of hot chocolate, nice cozy campfire.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all pretty good things to be sitting next to. Perhaps
down.
A nice fluffy cat.
Yeah. Open your ears, open your mind, because we're going to be hitting you guys with a lot of information. And we're going to go ahead and right off the bat hit you guys with our phone number. Now, again, we don't have live phone calls, unfortunately.
That's an ongoing project.
Yeah, a few engineering bugs, but we're getting...
There have been a few mummy assaults on the studio. Some of them are chewing through our broadcast tower and our phone lines.
Yeah.
So it's just been ridiculous over here.
Yeah.
We've lost a lot of interns, but
ridiculous amounts, really.
They've been doing what they can.
Yeah, they built a human intern wall to try to keep the mummies out, but the mummies broke through. And so, live phones aren't working. But I'm going to go ahead and throw the phone call out, or our phone number, 540-568-3425. If you got any questions during the show, anything to add, feel free to call in, and you'll have the sweet voice of Sam to welcome you onto the radio.
Yep, I'll be taking the calls today, folks. West Virginia Rob, what's your role on the show today? What brings you into our studio?
To be an expert and to provide knowledge to the people.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
With the loss of so many interns, this semester especially, they've been on really dangerous missions and stuff. We've been fearful lately that we might lose West Virginia too, although he is the hardest man I've ever met.
Rock hard.
Yeah, absolutely rock
nails.
hard. He's never smiled once in his life.
Just scowling.
Yeah, only scowls. His mind is filled with nothing but cryptid information.
That's true.
Yeah, but anyways, we decided to call him back out of the field for the final episode.
And, going off that, Dan, Rob, we're glad to have you here. We also have a few other experts on their way here right now.
Heck yeah.
To really help us flesh out this broadcast for the next 2 hours. I just received word from the WXGM emergency broadcast system for the Sam and Dan Show, and they're on their way. So
Hot dog.
We've got some more experts on the cryptids we're going to be discussing.
Excellent.
As we speak.
Yeah.
As we speak at this very moment. So we'll be hearing from them later in the show. We got some extra microphones for them to hop on. And, yeah. So with that out of the way, I think we're
ready to dive in?
Yeah. All right, let's go for it.
Sweet.
So then this week, we got an absolute smorgasbord.
Yeah.
A veritable cornucopia. The all-you-can-eat buffet of cryptid information.
Golden Corral style.
Yeah, of course. Golden Corral.
Yeah, there's a family-style dinner of whatever you want to sink your teeth into.
Yeah.
And it looks like you've got a pretty solid research write-up on the chupacabra.
Yeah, I covered this first one because it's something that's really interested me for a long time. That, of course, is the chupacabra. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the name. It's really a household name, kind of like Tom Brady. Sort of like the Tom Brady of cryptids, really. Also, I'm sure a lot of people expected us to do an entire episode dedicated to the chupacabra.
There's a lot of info out there.
Yeah.
Lots to digest.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But allow me to say there was so much dense information we had to get out to you people. We just didn't have time to hit the chupacabra up. That's why we're saving it for the final episode. And so, for those of you who don't know, the literal translation of chupacabra into English is goat sucker, which, of course, describes the creature perfectly because it sucks a mean goat,
Yeah, it
does.
Right. Pretty self-explanatory. Going off that, in German, raccoons are actually called Waschbärs, which translates into washing bears because raccoons wash their food before they eat it.
Wow.
And they look like little tiny bears.
That's really,
so, some self-descriptive names of the chupacabra.
Yeah.
Little raccoon.
Back in the
parallelism.
day when names were being invented, again, like we mentioned with the Native Americans, very descriptive.
Just telling it like it is.
Yeah, exactly. We need to go back to that sort of naming scheme.
That's what the Sam Dan Show is all about. Just putting the truth out there for the people.
Mm-hmm. So, first reported attack that's been attributed to the chupacabra, March 1995 in Puerto Rico. 8 sheep were found dead on a farm, and each sheep had 3 puncture wounds in its chest area, and it was completely drained of blood. And this was reported by a local farm woman to the police, and they investigated, and they could not turn up anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
They couldn't find anyone with a 3-pronged blood-draining device in their possession. I feel like that's a pretty unique instrument.
Yeah, absolutely. They looked all through town. They couldn't find anything. They really had no explanation for it. And so they sort of, pushed it under the rug, I guess you could say, A few goats get sucked.
Rug.
Yeah. A few goats get sucked, who cares? Goats get sucked all the time. Really, I shouldn't say all the time, fairly often. But
sheep too.
Yeah.
Common chupacabra target.
Yeah, sheep and goats both get sucked equally. And anyways,
In fact, you would not believe how often it happens.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah. Moving on.
Keep going.
Yeah. Keep pushing it. Anyways, a few months later in August, another eyewitness reported seeing the chupacabra in the town of Canovanas, which is in Puerto Rico, of course. And in that town, in one single day, there was 150 farm animals and pets that were reported dead, all with the same 3-pronged holes in their chest, completely drained of blood.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You know what? That is a lot of animals. Rob, do you have any insight on that? As someone who spends a lot of time around animals yourself, fairly close quarters, do you have any insight on what how do you think those animals felt?
How do they feel?
How did they feel when this event took place? If you were in, say, let's step into the mind of a sheep or a goat in this area when you find out 150 of your boys have been sucked dry.
Yeah. And allow me to add, for the listeners out there who don't know, we asked Rob this because he was actually raised by wolves, which of course is why he is so hard. And so that is why we pose a question. He's got insight into animals that most people couldn't even dream of.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the animals, first off, if you were seeing your other animals dropping dead and beating the blood sucked out of them, I can imagine that it went down well seeing that, and they would have probably would have panicked.
Oh, absolutely.
But unless the chupacabra is a very sneaky fellow, so he could have went out there, is sucking blood. It looked like they're just falling asleep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who
like
knows if they even realize that the boy next to him just lost all their blood.
Yeah, fair enough.
I've noticed when I've gone and given a American Red Cross donation, I usually do not don't remember what happens next. So, removing blood can be a very subtle process.
Yeah.
But thanks for sharing that with us. I think that's an interesting fact that the animals were terrified because
also, I do want to say sometimes, animals are always looking at the ground eating.
Yeah.
So sometimes they might not realize things going on around them. I mean, when I act like an animal on my free time, I know it is very hard to use a peripheral vision.
Yeah.
Because, next thing you're looking for is more grass.
Yeah, especially when you put like horse blinders on, so you can really focus on just putting the food down in front of you. You got a full plate, you got your horse blinders. You don't want to worry about anything else except for the plate in front of you. You want to put that down.
So honestly, with less of their boys around, that just means more food.
Yeah. So what you're saying is some of them may have thought, hey, my boy's getting sucked dry, but
this is their chance to get ahead.
Yeah, I could eat his grass.
It's a selfish animal society where everyone's just looking out for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the farm way.
Yeah, survival of the fittest. And Rob was the fittest wolf, a wolf man, I might say, which is why although his entire pack was wiped out, Rob survived, and in fact, he's the one who wiped them out.
And it's not to be, it's not the same thing as the dog man. I'm a wolf man.
Yeah,
completely different.
Absolutely,
which we'll touch later.
Yeah, we're
pretty huge disparity.
Good
there.
Yeah, good thing we cleared that up. Yeah, we're gonna be touching on dog men a little later. That's a really interesting topic. But anyways, getting back into the chupacabra, general description for this creature, about 3 to 4 feet tall, and for those out there who don't use the U.S. system, that's 6 to 7.5 bananas.
Oh, that's so much clearer, because before, when you were saying that,
yes.
I couldn't really get in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 to 4 feet, what's a foot? Who knows? Exactly. But bananas...
I know I got 2 of them.
Yeah.
My foot is big, but someone else's foot is smaller. I mean, how
exactly. Yeah, are we talking about, like, a foot of a Chinese woman that's been bound? Or are we talking about, Shaquille O'Neal's foot? Yeah, or the foot of Bigfoot.
Bigfoot himself.
2 completely different sizes.
He's got pretty big feet.
Yeah, but everybody has seen a banana. Everyone's eaten one. They know the height.
They're all the same size.
Yeah, absolutely. Uniform. They're bred that way on banana farms. But anyways, again, 6 to 7.5 bananas tall. It's got sharp quills that run down its back. It's got scaly greenish-gray skin.
Ooh.
And, interestingly enough, it actually stands on 2 legs and hops around like a kangaroo, which is really interesting because I know a lot of people, when they try to explain away the chupacabra, they just say, it's just a coyote with mange or some sort of sick dog that hasn't eaten in a while. Yeah, well, does a sick dog hop around on 2 legs?
Yeah, explain that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I've never seen a sick dog do that. Only healthy dogs.
Yeah.
And believe me, they're not very good at it.
Yeah, but it is cute when they do it. They can do little tricks and stuff. There's some great videos out there of dogs hopping around. That's always a good time. But chupacabra, not a good time. He'll suck your sheep. He'll suck your goats. Last thing you want on a farm. Anyways, we talked about a couple sightings in Puerto Rico, but there are actually even more sightings in the southern U.S., specifically Texas. Everybody in Texas is seeing the chupacabra, and let me say, on average, I'm talking each year since 1995, there are over 230 chupacabra sightings in Texas alone.
Wow. That's almost more than one a day.
Yeah.
Well, almost.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
Almost.
If we had to round up there, 230.
If we had to round up, like 365.
Right.
Chupacabra day.
Pretty close. So at least one chupacabra sighting every 1.5 days, for sure. And, what is a half day besides a day split in half? So at least, that day's got a chupacabra sighting in it. So we can safely say almost once a day, if not more than that.
Yeah.
So those are pretty startling numbers. And what really surprises me, Dan, is that it's the southwestern United States. Because, as we know, those people down there, they're very serious.
Yeah, they're stern people.
And known for their good eyesight.
Yeah.
So I find it pretty incredible that so many people would be reporting this creature. And that the scientific community often, attempts to explain away.
They're trying to disprove it.
Right.
Yeah.
These so-called experts.
The government. Who are these people? What gives them the right?
I want names, addresses, so I can find them.
Trust me.
And ask them a few questions.
Yeah. You don't want West Virginia getting your name or address, okay? If you're out there spreading lies.
Even email address,
you'll get it.
So
Any
much
sort of information to tie you.
To lies, you're done. But anyways, with that, we're going to hit you guys with a quick PSA because we are at the 6:15 mark. Again, you're listening to the Sam and Dan show, and we got West Virginia in the studio. This is the final episode of this semester. Should be a good time. We're going to be covering a lot of great topics here. Right now, we're in the middle of talking about the chupacabra, and we'll be right back.
Forest animals. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow, have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. River, how's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man.
I love it. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. Okay, Squirrel!
The forest has been preparing just for you. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
All right, folks, we're back. Turning down some of that music there, a little loud. Anyways, before we went into the PSA, we were talking about Chupacabra.
Mm-hmm. Actually, during that PSA, believe it or not, we got a call to the studio from our listeners over in Ohio. We got some, field stations out there doing some research for us, for free, of course. But they called in. They were wondering if my name, Sam, is spelled with GH. And I just got to say it's not, but,
Common mistake.
Yeah.
Right. Easy mistake to make, but we have different spellings all over the U.S. Looks like some of our other guest experts are actually here in the studio right now. So let's see if we can get them on the mic. Dan, you can keep talking about the Chupacabra. I'll throw them the ropes of broadcasting.
All right.
So they can get on board. All right.
Yeah, so getting back into the Chupacabra, we covered some of the sightings. We covered how common it is actually to see the Chupacabra. Now we're going to get into some of the explanations for the creature. First off, I already talked about the coyote with mange theory, and I know...
ridiculous.
Yeah, West Virginia definitely agrees with me on this. Really, that doesn't make any sense. With thousands of people seeing this creature, you would feel like if it was a coyote with mange, especially those people down in the southwestern U.S., they've seen coyotes with mange, okay? I think they can tell the difference between a blood-sucking...
reptilian-looking creature.
Yeah, yes, reptilian creature and a coyote with mange. So really, that's kind of ridiculous. Again, it's just the man trying to keep you people in the dark. One explanation that I really like is that the Chupacabra is some sort of alien. That perhaps it was left on Earth during one of the many visits of the Greys, or perhaps the Tall Whites, and during this time, it sort of joined in on the normal biota of an area, I guess I could say, and it sort of worked its way into the normal animals, and that's why it's become so common. And it's also possible that aliens purposely left the Chupacabra on Earth so they can study how it interacts with other terrestrial creatures.
All right, that's an interesting hypothesis. Speaking of aliens, you know what? We got some really special guests for us in the studio right now. Gentlemen, you called in last week, but due to weather interference, we weren't able to get that call through.
Yeah.
Would you take a moment to introduce yourselves to the listeners?
Hey, brother, this is Captain Flapjack. Just came straight out of the Bermuda Triangle.
Yes, I'm his skipper on the boat. I'm just the skipper for Captain Flapjack.
All right, so...
Well, it's a pleasure having you two.
Right, so for those who were listening in last week, these two gentlemen, they were in some trying times on the ocean, and...
You could say some triangle times.
Yeah, I guess we could.
We could.
Yeah.
That's one way to put it, Skipper.
Yeah, thanks, Skipper. And anyways, for those listening
you can
right
just
now,
call me Flap. Everybody just calls me Flap.
Will do, Flap. I gotta say, for the people listening out there who can't see these gentlemen right now, these are some of the saltiest dogs we've ever come across.
So salty.
Yeah, salt of the sea, barnacle-covered gentlemen, so they know a thing or two about sailing.
Some peg-legged, hook-handed, rough and tumble, haggard fishermen from the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, never eaten a lime in their lives, gums falling out.
So,
you know what I'm
I
talking
ain't no
about.
fisherman. I'm a pirate.
Yeah.
I'm just a skipper.
Yeah. Yeah. We got them both in here, skipper and a pirate and a captain.
All right, so, gentlemen, just to throw you in the loop a little, we're talking about the Chupacabra right now. Probably doesn't have a lot to do with the Bermuda Triangle, but have you guys... Let's hear a little bit about your experiences with mythical creatures, if you saw any, or strange occurrences while you've been in your seafaring salt dog days. The salt life.
The one time when Captain Flapjack and I were living the salt life, then we were going from archipelago to archipelago, and we did done see cryptid. And so that's why we decided to call in. We traveled all the way out to the Shenandoah Valley to be on the Salmon Dance Show after your team of investigators came out to the Bermuda Triangle and told us to come. So, the thing is that we saw a cryptid. We done did see it. It was called 8 Loco. Captain Flapjack, you saw a little bit, right?
Yeah, I saw a little bit of 8 Loco. It was one of the gnarliest creatures I'd ever seen. He could barely... It was like a fish human with a shiny head. I couldn't really tell you what it was, but it had 8 heads. That's why we called it 8 Loco. It was in the Gulf. When we were heading back out.
Is that where the loco comes from?
That's why we called it Loco.
Just a crazy sighting?
It was a crazy sighting. We were in the Gulf, so we thought it would be a good name for it.
Yeah.
But I don't remember much about it, but it was a wild creature.
Yeah.
Do you think 8 Loco remembers you?
At first, when we saw it, then we thought of the signal mirror, and that's why we approached it. I don't know if it remembers us. We approached, but... You can only get so close to 8 Loco, and even when you do get close to 8 Loco, then it's got a blank look in its eye.
Blank look.
There's a dead 1,000-yard stare.
And allow me to ask, you guys mentioned that this is a half fish, half man type creature with 8 heads.
It's a man mermaid.
Oh, a man mermaid. So is the top half of the creature fish? Or
yes. The top half is a fish, and the bottom is human legs.
Excellent.
He was wearing, SpongeBob SquarePants?
Yeah.
He was wearing Patrick Starr's shorts.
Oh, okay.
The peculiar thing about this 8 Loco is that the legs don't work that well. They can barely stand up.
He was trying to walk up these stairs, and he just couldn't make it.
Stairs in the ocean?
No, we invited him to our boat to have a nice cider.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And, he said he liked cider, so we invited him up, and he was trying to climb up to get onto our boat, and he almost fell down the stairs, he done did.
That's understandable. I think all of us in the studio, as human beings, have struggled with stairs and kicking things accidentally in the dark. So some just like common foot troubles. I can only imagine a fish-like creature trying to navigate with human legs when some humans have a lot of trouble with that themselves.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty awesome story, gentlemen.
And allow me to ask. What size was this creature? Are we talking normal man-sized? Or?
Right. Let's get the proportions here. And we've got a lot of international listeners, so any imperial conversions we like to toss into banana format.
It's just easier for the people.
I'd say he was probably 2 sacks of bananas.
At least sacks?
At least 2 bushels.
At least 2 bushels of bananas.
2 bushels?
His upper half, and then his
So we're
legs.
going volumetric on this.
Okay, all right. That's a fairly large creature, I would say.
Sizable, for sure.
Yeah, very much so. And you said that 8 heads, and they were all bald?
They were
all bald as a baby's bottom.
But they were like fish, but human at the same time.
Fish, but human.
Every forehead on this 8 Loco creature was like a signal mirror.
Incredible. Must have been an absolute sight to see.
Yeah.
So, were you able to interact with this creature once you got it on board your ship? Was it aggressive? Was it friendly? Did it try to dap you up? Anything like that? Does it even have hands is the real question here.
Well, he had flippers, and he was flopping them around a little bit, but he didn't really speak. He kind of just made dolphin noises.
Yeah, he was kind of like...
kind of more dark than my skipper over here saying, a little deeper, like... like that.
I've got a very high voice, so you might need to leave that up to Captain Flapjack.
Solid. I think we're catching the drift.
Yeah.
Or cruising on this wave, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, that's awesome. I just can't. You guys are so fortunate to have seen a creature like that out in the wild, and most importantly, live to tell the tale.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah, we've had interns out there in that general area, and tons have gone missing. Really, we haven't informed their families or anything.
Why would you?
Yeah, absolutely. They're sort of all expendable anyways. That's what they sign up for.
They signed a waiver.
Exactly.
Yeah. You sign a waiver.
We gave them safety vests.
Mm-hmm.
Anything
And
that
floaties.
happens
You
after
give
that.
them floaties and a flashlight. I mean,
Yeah.
they can't survive. They don't deserve.
Yeah, so really, it's a pleasure to have you guys,
Mhm.
survivors of meeting such an incredible creature.
So as a couple of briny sea dogs on, in the loop with Wickstrom, we have lots of researchers heading out there all the time. And do you have any tips for some potential seafarers who are looking to survive some treacherous waters, perhaps sailing the Red Sea, things like that?
Well, I mean, I suppose just find 8 Loco, and he's the size of at least a couple bushels of bananas. And so I mean, if he starts annoying you, you could eat him. And and there's also the added utility of if you make friends with him, then he can be used as a signal mirror.
A lot of uses there.
That is pretty convenient. You got any Flap, you got any surf tips in case, a little capsize happens?
Well, you just want to hit the lip, and then when you hit the lip, you just want to make sure you head straight into the tube, get the surfers high, make sure you're taking a nice breath when you're hitting the lip, in the pipe.
Wow.
Go bah!
Wow.
Thank you.
And very insightful.
I think we've been enlightened.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome having these guys here. In fact, it looks like we actually have more experts arriving as we speak.
Yeah. Nothing but guests today,
studio
folks.
is getting a little toasty.
Well, thank you so much. So, toodaloo.
All right, Captain Flapjack, Skipper, we appreciate
Always
your time.
Always a pleasure.
Oi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good luck out on the seas, boys.
Stay
All right,
safe
scallywags.
Yeah, what a treat it is, getting some of the usual listeners in here. Of course, Captain Flapjack and Skipper. They've been listening in on their boat for a long time. We've been in contact with them. They've actually taken a lot of our interns out into the ocean.
And left them there, but
well,
some of them don't make it back.
Some of them were supposed to be left there.
They need to survive somehow. If they can't do it on their own, how else are
they're
they
not worthy.
If we don't have eyes out there on the open water
at all times,
waterproof notebook, waterproof pen,
exactly,
pack of graham crackers.
What else? If we didn't send them out there, how are we going to know about 8 Loco?
Yeah, exactly. And
we wouldn't have known.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have known where we were because usually we censor our location when we're broadcasting far out, of course, because we don't want any nefarious organizations zeroing in on us and shutting us down.
Government.
Yeah.
There's some competition out there on the waters. If you guys have ever seen Whale Wars, it's like that, except in that scenario,
10 times worse.
We're the Japanese.
Yeah. And I know we got a little distracted there with 8 Loco.
Right, a gripping tail.
Yeah,
for
truly a gripping tail. But I'm going to finish up with the last theory for chupacabras. So
You're gonna reel it back in?
Yeah. Nice. I talked about chupacabra being an alien. Now I'm going to talk about the possibility that it's an interdimensional beast. So it's possible that there's a parallel dimension, sort of a shadow universe to our own. And in that parallel dimension, chupacabras are sort of normal animals. They're sort of the coyote of the other world. And there's some sort of rift or some sort of break in the time continuum. And these chupacabras are able to cross over into our dimension and interact with our creatures. And this is why they're sometimes, they're not typically the easiest to find, although there are a lot of sightings of them.
There's a lot of sightings, but it's hard to get one, catch one.
They're quick boys. They're quick. Yeah.
And you don't want to get too close because you don't know. Are they going to blood suck you?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, they might suck you. Actually, West Virginia's had a tussle with one of these back when he was living with wolves. His pack actually got attacked by a couple chupacabras. And how was that, West Virginia?
At first, like you said, you're like, oh, what is that weird-looking animal? And you're like, is it a coyote? No.
Yeah, definitely not.
Because it doesn't look like one.
Yeah, it's hopping on 2 legs.
Is that some weird reptilian kangaroo? I don't think so.
Yeah, absolutely not.
So, I mean, my pack was extremely hungry. So anything that moves, we were going after, trying to get.
Yeah.
And then, oh boy, do we have our hands full of a couple chupacabras?
Yeah.
I don't know what they were.
Yeah.
But over time, I've learned of what they are now.
Yeah.
From what people say and the research I've done.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a wild fight.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now. Nobody won. Nobody lost. It was just a long 4 days.
And allow me to add, chupacabras, they're a scrappy bunch.
Oh, yeah. They do everything. They pick up sand, throw it in your eyes.
Yeah, they're going for groin.
That type of stuff. Yeah, they go for groin.
Nibbling
There's no
on
rules
you.
with those.
Yeah.
With those animals.
They're pulling hair. They have no honor.
Nah.
Which is really disappointing. Anyways, the time is now 6:30, and that means it's time for promos.
Yeah, it does.
Do we have any promos?
There's no band promos going up. Is this? No, it's just a positive reinforcement note.
Wow.
It looks like we don't have any promos except for a very special event that's coming up.
Wow.
This June 30th. Actually this is September 20th and 29th. All right. I don't know where I got that date from.
Yeah, June 30th was just pulled out of nowhere.
Right. I'm just making stuff up. But the Virginia Bigfoot Conference in the Waldo Mills Retreat, Bristol, Virginia. That's this Friday and Saturday of September 28th and 29th.
That's Friday in September.
And if you've been a fan of this show and you live in the area and you're financially able, that's an option that you can look into. I think that's something that Dan and I, and West Virginia Rob as well, will be doing a little bit more research on ourselves.
Absolutely. You know, we have interns that we already have that we've specially trained who are going to be there at the conference. And we, in fact, might be there ourselves because, you know, sometimes, you know, we love our interns. They do decent work, but there's no replacement for the originals. You know, we were grinding before anybody else, and our interns, they're an okay bunch. But they don't have the sort of drive.
They don't have the passion.
Yeah, they don't have the passion. Yeah. Anyways, with that, that's the end of our promotions. And you're listening to the Sam and Dan Show every Wednesday, 6 to 7, WXJM Harrisonburg. And if you want to call
also available to stream online, WXJM.org.
This is a special season finale episode.
Yes, absolutely. And if you want to call and you have any questions or something to add, the number is 540-568-3425. So you guys ready to dive back in? I think we have some special guests in the studio.
In fact, speaking of diving back in, we got two people here. Rob, would you mind taking that call?
I can introduce. Well,
all right. Okay, you introduce them then.
Yeah. What up? Live in studio right now, we got a couple of regular listeners. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves? Sorry, they got to move the mics down.
Hello, I'm Space Cadet.
Yeah, okay, we got Space Cadet, and
I'm Guest B.
Guest B!
All right, Guest B has made a return
absolute
to
pleasure.
Our humble show.
Yeah.
We're honored.
Rob's the one taking the call. Okay, yeah, so...
Thanks for calling in. All right, well, you know, Space Cadet, Guest B, sorry we don't have a chair for you. But...
The listeners don't know that.
That's true. But I'm just giving them a visual painting, for a mental painting for them to paint for themselves and take home.
Here's the thing.
As a souvenir for the show.
Yeah, so over here in the WXJM studios, Sam and I have actually piled up a bunch of chairs to make one mega chair, which we sit on so we can look down on all the people who are with us, except for West Virginia, of course, who's also on his own mega chair. And that is why.
The huge stacks of chairs don't leave a lot of chairs for everybody else.
Ran out of chairs for me.
Yeah. Anyways, you guys might remember Guest B from our vampire episode. He's an expert on banana metrics. And
I don't know if expert is the word I would use.
Okay. He's a dabbler into banana metrics.
And you know what? Him and Space Cadet are here to explain to us a little bit of their experiences with our next subject of this special broadcast, which is mermaids. Which are mermaids, mermaids, and merpeople. Mermen as well. Before we get started on it, though, Rob, you wanted to describe that call to us?
Oh, yeah. The caller had another theory about the chupacabra. On it was something they saw in a documentary of Grimm of a Weston that was a mosquito bit and kind of mutated it into what now is the chupacabra.
A Weston, you say? What is that for some of our listeners?
I don't know.
Is it a Westie dog, perhaps?
Oh, very likely, yes. That would make a lot of sense. Westies are known hunters. Typically, they hunt voles, but it's very likely that there's that a mosquito bite, perhaps the mosquito's infected with some sort of chupacabra disease. It could bite into the Westie and transform what is already a great hunter into an even more bloodthirsty creature.
I could see a crazed Westie taking out 150 farm animals easily.
Yeah.
Like it was nothing.
Absolutely.
Like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or anything else.
All right. So we're going to get back into mermaids and utilize some of the guests that we have in here today. So you guys have some sort of experience with mermaids?
I I suppose so.
Awesome. All right, that's what we like to hear, and that's all we need. All right, so
all you need is a slight chance. We'll take it and run with it.
The bars are pretty low, given the mummy attacks. We got a lot of positions open.
Yeah.
But so a little background for those who are unaware of what mermaids, people, and mermen are. In folklore, a mermaid is an aquatic creature with the head and upper body of a female human and the tail of a fish. So a reverse mermaid is a creature with the head and body of a fish and human legs. So that kind of sounds a little bit like Eight Loco to me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Very
what
likely.
an interesting coincidence that they were in the studio just moments ago. So yes, one has human legs, one has fish legs. Only one of them is capable of riding a bike and human speech. And obviously a merman is the male version of a mermaid.
Mm-hmm.
So, a little bit archaic language there, but, what can we say? Mermaids have been around a while.
Yeah.
So, as we know, mermaids super popular with children and sailors. They're very ancient sea creatures. In fact, they've been around for just about as long as humans have been sailing the open ocean.
Yeah, absolutely.
And closed oceans, too. And apparently lakes and rivers.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of info.
Ponds as well. Sometimes they, if it floods a lot and like a lake overflows, a mermaid can get trapped in the runoff, get trapped in your pond.
As long as mankind has been utilizing in-ground pool technology, there's been mermaid sightings.
Absolutely.
So just something to keep in mind. Actually, in 1836, just for a little bit of timescale reference here, the Danish author Hans Christian Andersen adapted the mermaid story into one of his most memorable tales. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners are familiar with this because we have a pretty high, very high literacy rate, well-read listeners in our audience. And so Little Mermaid is the tragic tale of a young mermaid who gives up her voice to be able to walk on land. Not worth it.
Powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you might remember this from the popular Disney movie, The Little Mermaid.
Mm-hmm.
However, the Hans Christian Andersen book had a different ending. It does not have a happy ending. So if you don't like happy endings and, you really think that true love shouldn't be based on looks alone, you should go read this book.
What if you believe that mermaids deserve to suffer?
What if you believe that?
What if you believe the Disney movie had a terrible ending?
This is still the book for you. I like the book ending.
Now,
but I won't spoil it.
You won't. We're asking you here live on radio. Would you mind spoiling the book for all the listeners?
Oh no!
Because I'm fairly certain none of our listeners are going to waste their time.
Well, okay. Fine.
They got important things to research.
We listen. We don't read.
I love the
exactly.
ending. Okay, so
that's why we got a radio show, and not
a book show. Yeah, this isn't Oprah's book club. Okay.
True.
Despite your high literacy rate.
Yeah, which are high.
The highest.
Yeah. Anyways, let's get back into this ending.
Well, the most of the story plays out the same. The sea witch steals the beautiful mermaid's voice in exchange for her becoming a woman. Then, something that isn't mentioned in the movie, the beautiful woman who has no voice, every step she takes is so painful. It's not that she just can't talk to attract the prince. It's just a horrible, horrible time to not be a mermaid. And she instantly starts to regret leaving her family, losing her voice. And the premise is the same. So she still has 3 days to get her true love's kiss. Mm-hmm. And the sea witch, is another beautiful woman that doesn't painfully walk and also can speak. It's as expected. The ending of this book is that she does not marry the prince. The sea witch marries the prince and takes over. And
just born sea witches.
Nice.
The Little Mermaid turns to sea dust.
I've never even heard of sea dust.
Yeah, allow me to say, actually, this story is based on a real account of what happens when mermaids and humans try to interact. It shouldn't be done. There should be a separation there. There's a reason mermaids live in the water and we live on land.
Because we're better.
So, Guest B and I were discussing this earlier.
Okay.
Is Sam and Dan, are you against intercrypted relationships?
With what?
Like if a mermaid wanted to make out with Sasquatch or something.
Oh, that would happen.
How would you feel about that? I mean, you're against mermaids and humans.
Sasquatch would never swoop that low. Sasquatch
you
is
think
like
a mermaid could get Sasquatch? You gotta be kidding.
Yeah.
Highly unlikely.
Yeah, extremely unlikely. Really, the thing about Bigfoot, he never stoops so low. He's sort of like the Brad Pitt of the cryptid world. You know, he's a hunk. Everybody sees him.
He's cryptid nobility.
He's
Mermaids
one
are
of a
but
kind.
Yeah.
serfs in the waves.
Yeah, exactly. Bigfoot's the big dog, okay? He wouldn't stoop so low as to kiss a fish, let alone a princess fish.
What about a mermaid and an alien?
Again.
So
Again, we
It's
have
tough
to say
say which race.
exactly.
Which
are,
race?
Are mermaids aliens?
Again, are
So
mermaids
it
aliens?
wouldn't be it would be the same race.
You know,
technically.
I think the real question, what are aliens anyway?
Of course, aliens are from another planet, creatures that come to Earth. You know, I talked about that a little bit in the alien episode, and I'm not going to dive in too deep now.
In fact, actually, there's a pretty big Venn diagram cross-section. Have you guys seen the movie The Abyss by James Cameron?
no.
All right, well, basically in the movie, there are...
Now.
Spoil it.
Yeah, spoiler alert. There are mermaid aliens. So they're both one and the same. So,
Yeah.
Irrelevant question, really.
Is this
But-
like Shape of Water?
Similar.
That is also a good reference point. A little more. Probably a lot more people have seen that one.
And again, going back to the inter-cryptid relationships, cryptids, not only do they avoid humans, but they tend to avoid each other. You know, Bigfoot's only going to hang out with other, similar ones, Yetis, Yowies, those
Skunk
sorts of
apes.
creatures. Yeah, skunk apes. Of course, skunk ape, another big hitter in the cryptid world, known as a real hunk around the cryptid circles.
Swamp Cabbage Man.
Yeah, the Swamp Cabbage Man. Stinky Swamp Cabbage Man is a name he's well known as.
Smelly, gross guy. Skunky.
Yeah.
Lots of endearing nicknames for that one. But, okay, so, right, as we we're saying, Little Mermaid.
Back to mermaids.
There is actually a statue in Copenhagen, famous for their tobacco, Denmark, and it was built in 1913. And I've heard that you guys have a little bit more input as world travelers on what's really gone down with the statue in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, that vampire told me to come to Europe.
Yeah.
So I was making my way to Europe and stopped by Copenhagen. And there was a statue, and its head was missing.
Wow.
It was a statue of the Little Mermaid, right?
Yes, and
There's
the
a
head
tiny
was
thing.
clean cut off.
Again,
The statue's head was cut off?
Yeah, it was completely
Copenhagen's.
gone. I was there too. Not directed by the vampire, but I don't know how I ended up there. But the head was just, and this is real, folks. This really
like
happened.
everything.
like everything, we
like
say on here.
everything on our show.
The head
This
was
is real.
stolen.
Wow.
So the government of Denmark, that's there in Copenhagen, I don't know if they found it or made a new one, but they got a head for this Little Mermaid statue.
Was it a statue head or a real head?
It was a statue.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it could have been a real head, but either way, they made it so
Kept it in
heavy
stone.
It was a real
that it could
statue
never
head.
be stolen again. And they reattached it, and you can see like the stitch marks.
Outrageous.
On the thighs.
Outrageous.
And now you can't steal any of the statue. I guess you could like break off the tail or something.
That
Maybe
would-
it's hollow.
Yeah.
But why the head?
How recently was this?
That's all you need.
This was in the near past.
In the near
Interesting.
past. Well,
I see.
allow me to pose this sort of question. It's been proven in the past that through some sort of undersea magic, mermaids have the ability for a short time to gain legs and walk amongst humans. Is it possible that mermaids, sick of being, put into Disney movies or mocked in these stories, decided to destroy the statue as a sort of get stuffed, to the humans? Do you think that's a possibility, or do you think it's just, human pranksters? Which, slightly unlikely, I'd say. I don't think pranksters would go as far as to cut the head off a statue. That's a real
That
statement.
seems like a lot of work, yeah.
Ton of work.
Mm-hmm.
This must be the mer people's work.
Yeah? Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. What if there's like I guess racists that don't like the mer people, like humans that have discovered the mer people,
Or
Yeah.
perhaps
'Cause the
other mer
mermaids are-
creatures like
Other
manatees.
cryptids.
right?
Are jealous of all the mermaid attention.
The
They wanted-
vampires.
yeah.
The 20 banana wide vampire.
20 bananas wide, 3 bananas tall.
One stout vampire.
Stout is the best way to describe such a vampire. But anyway, the time right now is 6:45. We got to hit you folks with the weather, and then we're going to dive right back into this mermaid stuff. We're going to finish up with a couple of first-hand. I shouldn't say first-hand. Let's say second-hand mermaid
maybe even
attacks.
third-hand or fourth-hand.
That we have here in the database.
Oh, we have two.
Right. Okay, so the weather in Harrisonburg right now is 84 degrees and sunny. Today is Wednesday, my dudes, and we're going to have sunset at 8:06 p.m. Tomorrow, Thursday, we're going to have partly cloudy with a high of 89 and a low of 59. Once again, Friday is going to be pretty hot, partly cloudy, high of 85, low of 58. And Saturday, unfortunately, it's going to be a little drizzly. Sorry about that, graduates.
Boom.
But that's going to be a high of 70 and a low of 54. Okay, so let's get back to the mer talk.
Yeah, I know.
As we could
Sam
say.
actually, he was researching right before the show. You know, he was digging deep in the database, and he came across a couple accounts of mermaid attacks.
Right.
Is that right?
That is correct. So before I get into that, though, I'd just like to talk about, this potential bias that mermaids could have against humankind.
Sure. Absolutely.
And really famous example of mermaids getting captured. First of all, we had the Animal Planet documentary.
Yeah.
Mer people, the body found.
Blew the doors wide open on the mermaid.
Yeah, really exposed a lot of what's going down in the mermaid world. And, some pretty hard evidence. Unfortunately, it was all fake. But but for those who choose, most of it was...
Maybe you just don't have the clearance to...
Right, maybe we just don't know.
Not.
Maybe the real truth is still out there. But anyway, so famous captured mermaid...
It's right here.
The P.T. Barnum mermaid. All right, so this thing, everyone's heard of P.T. Barnum, of Barnum and Bailey, circus guys.
Good time.
They used to, carry around people back when they used to do Bearded Lady and, Siamese Twins, that kind of
They should bring
business.
those back.
Right. So he had the Fiji mermaid. Now, similar to the water, except for some reason they spelled with E's instead of I's, but, same thing. This was all the way back in 1840. So this guy knew what was going on. He knew mermaids were going to be, up and coming before this dude wrote his book, Hans Christian Andersen, and even before Disney decided to jump on the bandwagon. This truly, Barnum was ahead of his time. But research found that it was, in fact, not a true mermaid because it was actually a male monkey, a small monkey, the head and torso of a monkey, grafted to the body of a large fish. Now, I would argue, counterpoint to that, what is a mer person besides a body and a head on a fish?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And first of all, everyone's heard of sea monkeys, right? So this is quite literally a sea monkey.
Yeah.
Or perhaps, speaking on an evolutionary scale, a distant ancestor that was uncovered of a mer person.
Absolutely.
Before evolving. We don't know how fast mer people evolve.
Yeah.
I mean,
Very
we
true.
just don't know.
We don't.
So they could evolve on, a logarithmically, exponentially faster scale.
Absolutely.
And this is what my research is in. As you know, my name is Space Cadet, right? But I'm an expert on mermaids.
Yeah,
that doesn't
perfect.
make any sense.
Well,
until you realize that mermaids don't have to breathe underwater.
Yeah.
How do they breathe? Is it gills? Is it something else? Can we make them breathe in space? Will they be the first explorers?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. We don't know how they breathe. I can imagine gills would probably be involved.
Maybe some sort of seaweed apparatus.
Yeah, definitely a possibility. Or perhaps they just sort of swim around and they run into oxygen bubbles, and they just try to hold their breath for a really long time, like sperm whales. They come up, they take a big breath, and then they sort of dive down, swim around for a while, and then they come up, harass some seamen, and then dive back down again.
That's kind of what I do.
Right.
Yeah. Very similar to West Virginia, except he's on land, and he's usually just harassing those who are trying to keep the secrets hidden from the people.
Right, and that makes sense. We could be dealing with near reptile creatures because the only one ever recovered was a monkey, and I would say monkeys are a lot similar to lizards than they are to me. So, I mean, just objectively speaking.
Yeah.
So, we really just got to err on the side of caution here. We don't know how they breathe.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know.
We really don't.
So, Space Cadet, good observation. Maybe they don't.
Maybe they don't.
Maybe they don't.
Maybe they just don't even breathe.
Mm.
I mean, why? Why bother breathing if you don't have to?
Amen.
If you could evolve to never need to take in air, why would you? Lots of advantages to that.
Fair point.
You
Fair
could
point.
spend as long as you want in a gas station bathroom without passing out. And for some people, big advantage.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so as I was saying, mermaids are up and coming. Lots of stuff going on recently. In fact, we've got recent reports from our researchers in Israel and Zimbabwe, and that there have been mermaid attacks.
Wow.
Not just sightings, but straight up battery from mermaids.
Straight up battery, eh?
To humans. Right. And so, I mean, further proof that these aren't just manatees being misdiagnosed as human beings. Because, manatees, as we know, are peaceful. And
they'd never batter a man.
Right. They would never do such a thing.
No.
And also, their reflexes are just way too slow to ever swing at somebody and land a hit.
They're too busy eating grass off the bottom of whatever body of water they're in to rough up a person, I should say.
I mean, you don't get the name sea cow by being a fast, hard hitter, Mike Tyson of the sea.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You get that name from eating tons of food underwater.
And moving slow.
Exactly.
All right. So a little bit of a background on this attack. So this happened in Zimbabwe, which is
landlocked.
Right. I don't know if I mentioned that. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Because there is no ocean or sea in Zimbabwe. So I'm not sure where this mermaid came from.
Yeah.
But my goodness, was it there?
Yeah.
All right. So Rose Maguza, 45, a teacher at Chikanga Primary, had her teeth stolen by this mermaid that lured her.
Wait, straight out of her mouth? Or
Out of her mouth.
dentures?
I'm just going to read the account that she gave.
All right.
It probably sounded like this because she didn't have her teeth.
Yeah.
But
don't talk like
or she
that.
I'll
wrote it.
translate it. All right. So Maguza said, I decided to use a shortcut on my way home from work. All right, rookie mistake number 1. Mermaids hate it when you take shortcuts.
Yeah, absolutely.
They love patterns, and when you break those patterns, they strike.
Yeah, they'll go for your teeth.
Right, they just know. All right, so she says, while using that shortcut, we crossed a small river. And just when I was about to cross that small river near an apostolic sex shrine, I saw a whirlwind coming straight in my direction.
Wow.
So some sort of Tasmanian devil tornado, we're
With
talking
water.
about, was bearing down on her. Yeah, perhaps a water spout. And she was just in absolute shock because next she says it kept coming my way. I stood aloof, wondering why the whirlwind kept coming straight in my direction.
Another mistake. When anything you see is weird, just start sprinting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or
Wise words from West
or
Virginia.
Sprint at them and attack.
Yeah.
Right.
Two
Good
options.
advice.
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight. There's no such thing as staying put.
Yeah.
If it's you versus a sudden whirlwind that seems to be heading straight at you,
flight.
Right. There's only one thing you can do, really, and that's try and surprise it.
Yeah.
So
Spook it. Spook it.
So she wondered why that was going on, and then she decided to jump to the other side of the river so she could, escape. But the whirlwind engulfed her and threw her into this small river. So the teacher claims she then saw two mermaids, a female one and a male one, beautiful hair, and nice eyes. That's what this description says.
Beautiful hair,
so
and nice eyes.
I'm inclined to believe that. But after the encounter, she managed to proceed home and was feeling dizzy with blood oozing out of her mouth, and then she realized her teeth were missing.
It took her the whole
all her
walk
teeth
home to
Yeah.
realize that?
All the teeth. She also injured her arm and leg during the incident and had to get artificial teeth put in as a result. So I don't think, if this was some sort of healthcare insurance claim where she accidentally sold her teeth in
They
order
really bit on
to
some rocks.
Yeah.
right, in order to make rent that month or something, I don't think anyone in their right mind would come up with such a convoluted story for how their teeth were mysteriously removed.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of leaning on the side of, I'm with Rose on this one.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes so much sense. These mermaids were in a landlocked country. They obviously watched The Little Mermaid. They didn't read the book. They don't know how that ends. But
Of
they're in a
course.
landlocked country. They're trying to become humans, so they're taking humans' parts,
Yeah.
starting with the teeth, I suppose.
Why not? Mermaids are known to have sharper teeth, not very human, more designed more to be eating seaweed and other fish in the ocean, not like us humans with our superior teeth, which can really eat anything.
Real
Pearly white.
versatile.
Yeah. Set of chompers. Yeah.
It's impressive stuff.
Yeah. Anyways, I think that's it that we have for mermaids. And with that, I'm gonna dive into something that really has fascinated me to no end, and it's a creature I've really been wanting to cover for an extremely long time. And again, thank you to Space Cadet for being on air,
as well as guest B.
For having us.
Yeah, always a pleasure having fans on the show. Anyways, with that, we're gonna dive into probably my favorite cryptid out there.
Oh yeah, this one's definitely a doozy.
Yeah,
and something that the people have got to know about.
Yeah, this isn't really a household name in terms of cryptids. We're talking the Loveland Frogman. So, as the name might suggest, the Loveland Frogman is a legendary creature from Loveland, Ohio. That's half frog, half human. And allow me to describe this creature. It's about 4 feet tall.
And how many bananas?
8 to 9 bananas. Okay. And almost the entire body is frog-like. The only difference is it's got human-shaped legs. Or I shouldn't even say that. The legs are still frog-shaped, but they stand up on 2 legs. And as I just described, they are much larger than a normal frog.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
Yeah, so
you're saying this has the same form and stature as perhaps a gigantic box-sized frog, the size of a moving box, that's trying to reach something on the top shelf of its kitchen counter.
Yes.
This sounds a lot to me like an evolution of maybe the chupacabra.
Yeah, perhaps.
So maybe their cousin. They split off. That one went north to the U.S. while the chupacabra stayed south.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that definitely seems like a possibility. Again, the chupacabra described as being scaly. Of course, frogs aren't really scaly, but their skin is similar under the scales to that of the chupacabra.
I mean, at first glance, you might mistake them for one another.
Absolutely.
Frogs do actually have warts. Actually, that's toads.
That's toads.
But
yeah. Come on.
I suppose that frogs could also have warts as well, which could be, eventually calcify and turn into scales.
Mm-hmm. And let me say, the Loveland Frogman, the first sighting of this creature was 1955, where, a man driving along the road, he spotted 3 frogmen sort of squatting along the side of the road, similar to like a Slav type squat. Of course, they have frog legs, so they're sort of built to squat. The original Slavs.
Right. In fact, Slav and frog sound pretty similar when you say them like that.
Yeah, if you say them really fast together and you close your ears.
Slav and frog?
Yeah, sort of similar. But anyways, upon seeing this car coming, these frogmen, they leapt over the road guard. Yeah.
Guardrail.
Yeah, guardrail, that's what it's called. And they sort of...
The road rail?
Yeah, they sort of hop/ran towards the local a river that was running adjacent to the road. And there are actually many sightings of multiple frogmen along roads. I don't know what would bring them to these roads.
Maybe they just like the smell of wet pavement.
Yeah, or
maybe they just had to cross it.
Yeah, it's also been posed that perhaps these frogmen, they prey upon the roadkill that's alongside of the road.
That's an easy target.
Of course, when you're that size, when you're 7 or 8 bananas tall, and you're a frog, you had a frog-sized body to maintain. You can't just be eating flies.
With powerful jumping
legs. You could, but that would be a lot of flies.
Yeah, you'd have to eat an inordinate amount of flies. It would just make more sense. You see a raccoon on the side of the road. It's already dead.
Might as well just pop it in your mouth.
That's dinner.
And they got big mouths, like any other frog, so they can really just slam a whole raccoon very easily.
In fact, speaking of big mouths, I love talking about, all these cryptids and stuff, but the time is now 7 o'clock. You're listening to WXJM Harrisonburg, 88.7 on your FM dial.
Yeah.
And normally, this is where we would sign off the show, but because, as we mentioned, this is, in fact, the 2-hour special season finale of the Sam and Dan Show featuring West Virginia Rob and various guests, we're going to keep going for the next hour. So, listeners, thanks for tuning in. 88.7. We also have a YouTube channel, The Sam and Dan Show.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out if you want to. And we're going to keep talking about frogs.
Yeah, and if you guys have anything to add, either to anything we said or perhaps the frog story, our phone number is 540-568-3425. You know, call in. Let us know what you think. If you've seen a Loveland frog, if you're from Ohio, that would be a real treat because although there has been many sightings, and I'm about to get into a really big one right now.
Mm-hmm. Big frog sighting?
Yeah, personally, none of our interns, or even West Virginia,
nope.
Yeah, none of us have personal interaction with these frogmen.
I'm hoping I will someday.
Yeah, we're actually thinking about sending West Virginia out that way over the summer, seeing what he can find. Of course, he's got the smelling capabilities of a wolf and the devilish good looks of an actor, and so he can really pull off anything.
Right, especially frog hunting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
frog
sniffing
digging.
for truffles, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah.
Very similar, except you're digging up,
You're
4-foot tall frogmen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Anyways,
yep.
After the 1955 sighting, there was quite a few sightings, about 15 to 20 sightings scattered throughout the years until 1972, when a police officer actually shot one of these frogmen.
Did he kill it?
No. So here's the thing: there was a report coming from a house of some rattling near their trash cans, and of course, typically when you think something's hitting my trash cans, you think skunk ape. So of course the police, they come running, and they send this one officer, and when he arrives, he sees some sort of slimy creature hunched over the trash, and he's not sure what it is. He puts his piece up, and
he starts unloading it. Not even asking questions.
He fires a shot off, and it hits this frogman, and apparently the frog let out a croak of pain and ran off into the woods. I should say run-hopped, because its speed is incredible, and its legs truly, truly powerful.
Well, that's what I want to ask. How is their movement? Is it some sort of skipping kind of thing that they do, or is it mostly hopping or running?
I've heard in accounts a lot of their movements are very humanoid, except they take long strides because they're able to sort of hop when they walk,
Okay. So like really long skips.
Absolutely.
Oh,
that's a good way to describe it. Extremely fast. And so this frogman, he takes the bullet and he escapes. And this police officer swears to this day that he did in fact shoot a frogman. And also, all of the sightings of frogmen, the hundreds of sightings, they've all been compiled into a musical called Hot Damn, It's the Loveland Frog. So if you really want to know more, I'm sure you can find that musical somewhere on the internet, and I'm sure it's loaded with great information. So I guess we're going to dive into some explanations for the frogmen now.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people would say, large frogs walking around, that doesn't make any sense. How
they would be wrong?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Thank you, West Virginia.
I think that makes perfect sense. I mean, if you're in the kind of environment where, animals can grow to unusual size, perhaps like rodents of unusual size, or
dinosaurs.
Yeah.
If those could have been walking around, how come 4-foot frogs can't be walking around?
Yeah.
Right. We've all seen, those ancient insects that are, 5-foot long dragonflies and all that.
Yeah.
Because of like higher oxygen content in the air.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's completely reasonable to believe that if a frog were eating 5-foot long insects, the frog itself would also grow proportionately.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To match that size.
Some people, I shouldn't say a lot because the general consensus is that these creatures are very much real, but some people have claimed that this whole thing is sort of a prank made up by the Loveland town in order to sort of bolster interest in the town because, if you're in Ohio and you're not Cleveland, what is there to do? And
Go
to that,
looking for the Loveland frog.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah. And to that question, I say, if Ohio truly was as boring as everybody knows it is, why would frogmen choose that place as their home?
Right. I really can't think of a single reason to visit Ohio. A desolate wasteland, really. But
yeah. Anyways, so of course, as we were just saying, the Loveland Frog is definitely not made up. It's 100% real. And there's a theory that I've sort of been exploring in terms of the Loveland Frog, something I've been cooking up in the labs with some of the interns, combining some of the information we know. And I've come to the conclusion that it's most likely these Loveland Frogs, they've lived in Ohio long before the people, and it's possible that some of the people actually evolved from the frogs, which is why people of Ohio typically have very frog-like features. But anyways, these frog creatures, if you'll allow me to say, they lived there long before the people of Ohio, and with the arrival of people...
Are you saying that the frogmen, the Loveland Frog, turned into Ohioans?
I'm saying some may have. If I can get deeper into this explanation, I think I'll tie everything together nicely.
Okay.
So, with the arrival of people, the frogmen, they were faced with two paths they could go down. One, stay above ground and merge with these men and sort of fuse the two people together into a group of Ohioans, or move underground and maintain the pure frogman bloodline. And it was sort of a 50-50 split. Well, I shouldn't say 50-50 because most of them chose to merge with the people, which is why there's so few frogmen now. But some of them chose to go underground, and they live there to this day, only coming above ground to perhaps gather roadkill or other resources that they need, or maybe just because they're bored of underground and they want to, swim around. They are amphibians after all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm going to jump in here as I'm an Ohio resident.
Oh, what a treat.
Local frog.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I can tell you something interesting here that's going to help out your theory, which, I haven't seen the Loveland Frog, but I live 10 minutes south of Loveland.
Oh, wow.
So I can tell you that maybe all Ohioans aren't super frog-like, but Cincinnati in general, that's where Loveland is. It's just outside Cincinnati.
Okay.
To the north. And, first of all, my first point here is Cincinnati has a system of underground tunnels.
Oh.
Cincinnati and Chicago,
like L.A.
back in the day, were in a race to be like the capital of the Midwest, right?
Wow.
And Chicago obviously won out. Chicago's a beautiful city, and
I've never heard of it.
Cincinnati, they have these subway systems with tracks, but no subway cars. So you can actually do all these like underground, like brewery tours and stuff like that. Really cool. But lately, a lot of people haven't been going on them, and I don't know if it's because there's been these frogs swimming around a lot down there, or it's also been very cold out recently. Not a lot's happened. It was below freezing earlier this week there.
Very tough
Tragic.
place to live. Tough place
Tragic.
to live.
It's very tough.
And allow me to add, it's very possible that the local government has knowledge of these frogmen, and they built the underground tunnels originally for the frogmen to live in, of course.
Oh, this
to sort of appease them.
Yeah,
you could say.
That makes so much sense.
You don't want to incur the wrath of the frogmen, of course. 4-foot-tall frogs of wrath, last thing you want.
They're protecting us, I see.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very likely they built these underground tunnels for the frogmen. And, they invite people down there every once in a while, do some brewery tours or whatever, but don't stay too late because that's when the frogmen come out.
So do you recommend that I do one of these tours? Maybe in the summer, after all the frogs have thawed out?
You can.
Because the frogs in Ohio
just
freeze.
Keep your wits about you when you're down there.
Absolutely. Don't make any frog jokes.
What do I look for?
Tracks.
Yeah, or 4-foot-tall frogmen.
4 foot tall. What about baby frogmen?
Those could be confused with just regular frogs.
Yeah,
So you don't have to be as worried about those.
They usually don't come out with the adults. They usually stay back.
Yeah, because they're typically tadpoles.
Yeah.
Tadpole type people with very small, like baby legs.
Right. It kind of looks like a Nerf football in a plastic bag.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to be looking for if you're seeing baby frogmen.
That's the best description I've ever heard of them.
Nobody else goes in the Ohio River that's right there. It's so dirty. It's not the right color.
Yeah, and the thing about the frogmen, they love a little bit of pollution,
Perfect. Yeah,
They
so
thrive
this is
on
why. Loveland, that's where they are.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Well, I'm really glad we got some firsthand accounts from a real Ohioan. What a treat.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. And I mean, the insight on those tunnels, that's just groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah, none
Quite
of our
literally.
interns found that. So
Right.
We're talking to
So
him later.
yeah,
we're gonna have a little word in our office.
yeah, absolutely.
There may be some pink slips handed out. Some contracts terminated. But thank you for your insight on that. And it actually looks like we have another guest here in the studio, another visiting expert.
Yeah.
Sir, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Sam Finkel.
Sam Finkel?
Yes.
Well, it's good to have you on the show, Sam.
Cool.
We just finished up talking about frogmen. That's really all we had in terms of Loveland frogmen.
Right. So, Sam Finkel, we've heard from, our contractors that you're actually a known expert on jackalopes.
Yes.
So, this is a thing that people in the U.S. have heard about a lot. There's lots of songs, lots of folklore, lots of, spirited team chants and credit card logos, all that good stuff
Right.
centered around jackalopes, as I'm sure you know. You want to tell us where you're from?
So I'm from Arizona.
That's a big jackalope area,
capital of
isn't
the
it?
world. That's what they
Yep.
say.
Yeah, I mean they were like deer back out there.
Yeah.
They're just like everywhere.
Absolutely. You
many of
step on them if you're not
Yeah.
careful,
It's honestly a problem. Like,
Yeah.
they're just like littering the roads in some areas.
Get some frogmen out there, munch on them,
Right. The frogmen are natural predators of jackalopes. That's something that's really important to note. So, a little background. We've heard in Arizona, those going out in the brush, on weekends, doing some day trips, those sort of things. There's a lot of danger associated with the jackalopes because, given their antlers and powerful hind legs, they'll launch themselves at intruders. So hunters and, those making their living out of doors are advised to wear stovepipes on their legs to keep from getting gored.
Yes, that's accurate. They're actually they can become very territorial.
Yeah.
And during mating season especially, you don't want to be seen out there.
Do you know when mating season is?
I think it's usually from early spring around to like late summer.
Okay.
Wow.
So it lasts quite a while.
They're mating forever.
Wow.
It is not a place you want to be without obviously stovepipes.
Yeah,
in
get your
life.
stovepipes, folks.
Right. All right. So stovepipes pretty effective. I've heard stories of people using soccer shin guards. Would you recommend that? They're a little lighter and
I
easier
would.
to move in.
They provide mobility. I mean, people aren't able to move very quickly wearing stovepipes in their legs, obviously.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
So yeah, you can't move around much.
Right. So shin guards could be a potential,
Absolutely. That's what I've been recommending now to actually my friends.
Yeah.
smart. The advances in modern technology that we've got in jackalope protection are just astounding. Like they probably got carbon fiber protection,
Yeah,
basically.
super light, super aero, super stiff. Let's see a
Impossible.
jackalope get through that.
So another thing, I've heard jackalope milk is very delicious. So can you tell us like a little bit of your experience with jackalope milk? What does it mix well with? Is there anything that you would like, any pairings you would recommend for a nice cold glass of jackalope milk?
Most people I know just put it in their cereal. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's a favorite down there. Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
Pour it in your Fruity Pebs, have a good breakfast.
absolutely.
And allow
That
me-
said, I've heard it goes well with fresh fruit. Can you speak to that at all?
Definitely. I mean, in Arizona, it basically has its own like chunk of the food pyramid. It's
Wow.
just like it's staple down there.
Yeah. Very interesting. And going off this idea of milk being so important down there, as we talked a while back ago in the Icelandic episode, the tilbury made out of a rib and some wool, it's a known milk thief. So I imagine it could be running rampant down there. People, if you're in Arizona and you have any tilbury experience,
Call into the show,
Yeah.
first of all. That number is 540-568-3425.
And, also be wary, of course, if you're a jackalope farmer as well, because a tilbury could easily steal your milk and bring it to its master.
From your jackalopes.
So, anyway, with that, I think we're hitting the 7:15 mark. So, it's about time to throw up a PSA. And again, you're listening to the Sam and Dan Show on 88.7 WXJM Harrisonburg. Every Wednesday, 6 to 7, although this is our last show for the semester. And we're about to dive in.
Always a threat in Florida, especially during dry periods. If you live in a wooded or rural area, Firewise landscaping is the best way to reduce your wildfire risk. It'll take a few modifications to your landscape and a little maintenance, but it's worth it. To help protect your home from fire, create what's called defensible space around it. This means you should separate groups of plants with gravel, pathways, or a well-maintained and healthy lawn. Keep combustible items like wood piles, gas grills, and propane tanks at least 30 feet from your home and clear away dead leaves and branches. Remove vines from trees, trim lower branches from your tall trees, and keep shrubbery away from pines. Choosing certain plants can also help reduce your wildfire risk. Plants with thick, succulent leaves, like cacti, tend to take longer to ignite than plants with small, needle-like leaves like pines. Check with your county extension office to see if you're in a high-risk area. This public service announcement is brought to you by Gardening in a Minute. For more information about drought, visit gardeninginaminute.com or contact your University of Florida IFAS County Extension Office.
All right, folks, we are back here in the Wicks Gym Studio, Sam and Dan show. Of course, we got West Virginia in here.
How's it going?
Yeah, and we just talked with a friend of ours, a guest, Sam Finkel.
Yep.
Right, jackalope researcher and hunter and expert and etymologist from Arizona.
Yeah, and master of milk. He knows a thing or two about milks, especially jackalope milk. So anyways, we're about done with jackalope. Sam, thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely.
Of course, we appreciate any input from outside experts. We're typically considered experts in all things cryptozoology related, but we can't get all the details. We can get very close, though. Absolutely. So again, thank you, Sam.
Absolutely. I just heard word about some rabid jackalopes that may need taken care of, so I'll be off.
Yeah, you are the man for the job.
All right, go get them. Thank you.
On your shin guards. All right. So with that, that's the end of jackalopes, and I think we're about to dive into another big topic. I guess you could say.
Huge topic.
Yeah.
Very topical topic.
Yeah. Allow me to say, when I was going through the Wicks Gym database, West Virginia's really slumped down right now.
Very relaxed.
He's had a hard day. He's been grinding all day. He's very sunburned.
Out there grinding. Got to get those facts out.
Yeah. His skin is going to be stronger than ever. Anyways, as I was saying about dogmen, when I first heard the word dogmen, I was surprised because I hadn't heard too much information about them. Of course, I've heard mention in passing. But
it's got one of those self-explanatory names.
Absolutely.
So it just kind of breeds a sort of like nostalgia and familiarity from that.
Yeah.
Just on its own.
Absolutely. And so when I started diving into this research, I was astounded by how much there was. Of course, there's not as much research as there is towards like a Sasquatch, Bigfoot type character, but there's a lot of very dedicated people out there researching dogmen. And I'm going to get into a basic description of dogmen. First off, very tall, around 7 to 8 foot, anywhere from 7 to 9 foot, I should say. 8 foot being the average.
Pretty big range.
Yeah.
That's NBA player size.
Yeah, absolutely. They should be getting rebounds, not eating people, which is what they do.
Right. I think that might be what Air Bud is based on, is a sort of reimagining of a dog man basketball player.
Yeah, absolutely.
Except they couldn't get a real dog man, so they just had to use a golden retriever.
Very similar.
Yep, very.
Anyways, there are two main types of dogmen. Of course, there's going to be the K9 type, which, as the name would suggest, the most dog-like of all the dogmen. Its snout is typically longer. It looks a lot like an upright canine. Of course, it is very muscular. These creatures range from anywhere from about 300 to 400 pounds. So absolutely yoked. And that, of course, is a canine type. Now, type 3 is very similar to a Sasquatch. However, it has a muzzle instead of the typical flat sort of, well, I should say the the K9 type of dogmen. Its face is very similar to that of like a German Shepherd's. It's got a very long snout. It sticks out very far. The Type 3 has a flatter face, but of course it still has a muzzle.
So these aren't, a pretty big cryptid that I don't think we've talked about is werewolves. Have we covered that at all?
No, we have not.
Right. So these dogmen are a separate entity from werewolves entirely, because, werewolves are part human, correct?
Yeah.
So, but dogmen are just 100% dogman.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, werewolves have a tendency to almost look human for a lot of, for most of it, and then kind of transform into their werewolf that people know them as. So they have the ability to go back and forth. While dogmen are they're just that's it. There's no changing them.
Absolutely, yeah. Dogmen are permanently dogmen, and these creatures they're known to stalk the woods. Here on the East Coast, actually, really in any woods in the Americas and abroad in Europe, there's been many that have been spotted, especially in Denmark. Surprising amount of dogmen sightings in Denmark, perhaps because they have so much woods there. But anyways, almost all dogmen sightings from survivors, of course, because you can assume.
It's hard to get the tales of the non-survivors.
Yeah, because of course they were eaten.
Yeah, they didn't survive.
Yeah,
right. So it's hard to report back what getting eaten by a dog man is like when you have in fact been eaten by a dog man.
Mm-hmm.
I can see why you would run into a little bit of a catch-22 sort of situation there, and perhaps not be able to tell anyone about your experience, as miserable as it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anyways. A lot of times, encounters with these dogmen, it's not so much, if they attack you, typically you're done for. There's nothing you can do about that. These are giant dog men. They'll mess you up too quickly. There's no way you can outrun them. You can't outmuscle them. You can't outsmart them.
I want to ask you a question. I don't know if you've came across this in your research. Are they pack-like creatures, or are they individuals? Are they travel in a small pack, or how do they travel in a group?
Interestingly enough, dogmen are actually solo creatures.
Solo?
Yeah, all solo. There's not usual. I mean, there have been group dogmen sightings. Mm-hmm. However, the vast majority, I'd say close to 90%, are solo dogmen.
I can imagine if times get desperate, it's always good to group up with similar people to get that nutrients you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, take down larger prey.
Exactly.
With your pack of boys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's why sodas come often in packs together. Because it's just
6 and 12, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, because it just works better that way.
Like Wolf Cola, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Wolf Cola. Of course, best beverage on the East Coast.
Right.
But allow me to say, less than 1% of eyewitnesses who've seen dogmen, which is ranging close to the tens of thousands. That's how many people have encountered them. Less than 1% have actually been attacked or claimed that, or that we know of. Of course, the ones who were eaten, they can't report it. Yeah. Anyways.
Because if they were attacked, I mean, I highly doubt they would be reporting it.
Yeah, of course.
They would have been done for.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyways, a lot of times, people will catch these dogmen sort of stalking them in the woods, like as they're going through the woods. And interestingly enough, a lot of times when you notice them, they leave you alone. I think when they're hunting, they typically want the easiest prey possible. If you notice them and you're going to put up any semblance of a fight, they're not going to mess around with you. Although,
sounds like their bark is worse than their bite.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just my opinion, man.
Yeah, definitely an opinion. That is yours. Anyways, it's also been reported that these dogmen have run alongside cars. Interestingly enough, they can hold speeds close to 45 miles an hour.
Do they run on all fours or on 2 feet?
On all fours.
All fours.
Well,
how fast are they on 2 feet, or do they not really run on 2 feet?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, so the K9 type dogmen,
okay,
they're typically on for 4 legs, although they do stand up sort of in like a hunched position. They're on 4 legs.
So kind of like a bear. Occasionally we'll stand on all 2 to get to the higher places, but
of course,
spends their time on all 4s.
Yeah, absolutely. Now the Type 3 dogmen, again, very similar to a Sasquatch type creature, except sort of dog-like face, and known to be violent, which Sasquatch is not known to be violent.
He's a very cool dude.
Yeah, super chill. Anyways, Type 3 dogmen, they typically run on 2 legs, and they're not actually as fast as the K9 breed of dogmen, which is very interesting.
Are they bigger and stronger than the
Yeah,
K9?
they're typically stronger. They have superior balance and joint control typically, because K9 and Type 3, their joints are not the same. the type 3 dogmen, their joints are very similar to human. We got the best movement in town.
Mm-hmm.
Our knees can go every which way, and so can our elbows, and so can our shoulders. Dogmen are sort of locked into, or I should say the K9 type dogmen are sort of locked into more just dog-like movements, I should say.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas the type 3 is more similar. I see it described here in the database as Sasquatch-like in their movement.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Anyways, yeah. So dogmen, they typically are seen at night, but they have been known to come out at day. Again, they prefer to stalk their prey and not be seen before they attack.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why they typically choose the night. But of course, as I was just saying, sometimes they do come out at day. Perhaps if they're very desperate for food.
Yeah.
Or maybe if they see extremely easy prey, like.
Well, I can imagine, since, like you said, they do like the easy prey.
Mm-hmm.
Now that dogmen are becoming more and more prevalent, people know about them. It's a lot harder for them to get that food.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
People are always looking for them.
Yeah.
And so they got to start changing up their patterns and doing other stuff. That's why they're coming out in day, seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of catch people off guard.
Yeah, actually, in our database, we have all sorts of dogmen encounters.
Oh boy. I think we should read a couple of these off.
Yeah.
Dan, do you mind if I go over this one from Virginia?
Yeah, please do. Please do.
All right, so this is in our own home state, people. The big VA, the pizza slice of North America.
That's what they call it.
As it's known.
Mm-hmm.
The place for lovers, according to our bumper stickers for some reason. This is where you want to be, and apparently the dogmen think so as well. So we've got a witness report from when his stepdad lived in Virginia. He's around the age of 8 years old. Children, very trustworthy in general. If you ever want an honest opinion of how you look, if you talk funny, or if you're ugly, believe me, you ask an 8-year-old, they will tell it to you straight.
Amen.
So, just another really credible report because children have not yet developed the neural synapses capable of lying.
Yeah, absolutely not.
So, we've got a couple doctors in the studio who can back that up. They're busy right now, though. Anyways.
They're all doing doctoring stuff.
Yeah, they're doing surgeries and stuff. Right?
Yeah.
For all the mummy attacks.
Mm-hmm.
It's been rough. Rough week, busy week.
Yeah.
All right. So, this man, boy, looks out the window on the edge of the Great Dismal Swamp. So, the Great Dismal Swamp of Virginia, huge area. This is where the settlers died en masse from mosquitoes and, decided it wasn't a good place to camp out when they built Jamestown and all that. So, just a pretty crummy place to live, hardly touched by humans. Nobody wants to be around there, just not a good time. And ground's wet, mossy, it absorbs sound, but this boy wakes up in the middle of the night and hears scratching outside his window. So we don't know, what's lurking out there in the Great Dismal Swamp, but according to him...
But we do know.
We do know. Some of us know. It's dogmen.
Yeah.
You're right, Rob. And he saw a beast looking right through his window directly at him. All right, so he says there was spittle running down its face. Its eyes were locked straight at him, glowingish yellow eyes. It was standing on its hind legs and had red-brown colored matted fur and a face almost like a wolf, almost like a human.
Wow.
And its jawbones were high, structured around its eyes, and the eyes themselves were human. But as we said, it was yellow-colored eyes. So the spooky thing about this particular incident, besides it happening right here in this very state, which could be within several hundred miles perimeter from our very studio as we speak, we just don't know. Dismal Swamp's pretty big. He crawled out of his bed. In the morning, him and his mother looked around the house. All the windows had ground stirred up underneath them. So there was, obviously some sign of an attempted entry. There were scratches in the wood under the boy's window, and paint was missing.
Also, some things that dogs do, so I don't know if dogmen do this or not, is they scratch the ground to mark their territory.
Yeah.
Which could have been what this dogman was doing to kind of say, this is my house, no other dogmen go here.
Yeah.
Or stuff's going down.
Yeah, or get the business.
Yeah.
Right. So, it says here, speaking of that, actually, Rob, says here that there was snatches of grass thrown up, well, like torn up and then thrown on the ground. And that is also very much dog-like behavior. But obviously, a dog standing on its hind legs would not be able to reach up high enough to look in through your window and in the middle of the night, nor would it have human-like features. So I think, something to be aware of, something to be looking out for. Actually, maybe don't look out for it. Just don't look through your windows at night. Generally good advice. You never know what you're going to run into out there. It's better just not to know. Ignorance is bliss. That's why I just keep my windows shut and never look outside of them.
Exactly.
Very smart.
That's what you got to do. Yeah. All right, so the time is actually now 7:30. We are 75% through with our 2-hour special of the Sam and Dan Show on WXJM Harrisonburg.
Just chugging along here, folks.
You're listening to 88.7, and we're talking about dogmen.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything more to say on this topic, Dan? You are an absolute well of information. I'm just amazed by how much you and West Virginia Rob know about dogmen and the ins and outs and going on and happenings of various dog dudes.
Well, really, I think we covered a lot of the big points when it comes to dogmen. Of course, you covered a very interesting encounter. Personally, I've actually had a sort of encounter with a dogman, I guess you could say.
And lived to tell the tale.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about old Dan. I'm a tough old boy. No dogman is going to take me down, especially when I got the truth to tell. Anyways, this was just, it was late at night. I was walking through Purcell Park.
That's right here in the neighborhood.
Yeah, right here in the burg. Of course, there are a couple trees there, so of course dogmen are going to be hanging about. Anyways, as I was walking here, sort of snarling from behind me, so
Jinkies.
Of course, jinkies. So of course, I take a look back. What is this snarling that's ruining my moonlit walk? And so I turn around and I see these bright red eyes looking at me from the woods. So of course, dogmen, they can smell your fear.
Much like bees.
Yeah, very similar to bees.
And
but
sharks.
Not nearly as scary, because bees will mess you up. Well, dogmen will too, but bees, very scary.
Bees,
much more likely to do so.
Yeah.
Bees will mess you up and let you live to tell a tale.
Yeah. They want you to go tell everybody what they did to you.
But, quick aside, actually, I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but when I was a young lad, our neighbor had a big, tall magnolia tree, which, if you guys have never seen a magnolia tree, they are excellent for climbing. They got lots of sturdy branches that just come out at perfect 90-degree angles. Fun times. So I was just a little boy, 11, 12 years old, climbing this tree, having a good time. We would always climb it. And some bees had built a nest at the top of the tree. And I didn't realize this because I was a child and was a fool.
Yeah,
and,
as children are.
Right. So what happened to me was I climbed up this tree, and I'm sure someone told me don't do it, but I did it anyway. I climbed up to the top, and then I noticed, there's a bee's nest up here. And what happened was a bee came at me as I was looking at the beehive hole. Not the best tactic. I put my eye up to the hole to try and see inside.
Absolutely not.
How you can know what's inside if you don't look?
Exactly.
Right. Well, that was my thought process as an 11-year-old child at the time. And so I put my eye up to it. Guess what? Lo and behold,
bees.
Behold,
wow!
A bee came out, and stung me on my eyelid.
Oh.
So I got blasted right there on my eyelid. Fell about 30 feet out of the tree. Hit a couple branches on the way down. My eye swelled up, so it was the size of a softball.
Wow!
Couldn't open it. It was rough.
Yeah.
Bad experience with bees. Wouldn't recommend.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
1 out of 10.
One thing I would say about that, next time, to protect yourself from bees, a bat. One of their worst enemies.
They can't handle a bat.
No. I mean bat as a baseball bat, not an actual bat. But
I think
I've never
an actual
tried that,
bat.
so you could.
If you had a bunch of bats.
If you have some bats.
It'd be worth a shot.
Might do some damage to those bees.
It might. It might. Definitely a possibility.
But a baseball bat also works.
Yeah.
All right, good advice. I'll keep that in mind. So, just an aside.
Yeah,
that I think, pretty relevant to what we're talking about here.
Very
because
relevant.
A single bee almost ended my life. And I just can't imagine what a dog man could do.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
So continue with your story about Purcell, Dan.
Yeah. So, anyways, of course, I as I was saying, I know dogmen can sense fear, and with this incredible knowledge, I decided to be as unfearful as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I played a little bit of Eminem, get myself hyped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the old 8 Mile soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I sort of looked his way, and I puffed myself out. Of course, typically when I'm walking through the park, I carry my fog machine with me, just to create a mysterious ambiance.
Right. Good tactic.
Yeah, and so I sort of used that fog machine to sort of puff up my shirt, make myself look larger. And I think the dogman got the picture because at that point he left me alone. Probably went after some other poor sucker. But I'm still here to tell about it, and I'm glad to be here. And that's about it for dogmen. I think that's really all we have.
Wow.
In terms of dogmen.
I do want to say, I do want to make this fact again.
Oh, yeah.
That dogmen are nothing like wolfmen. This is why I know so much, because people kept mistaking the both as each other. And I had to research a dogman just to tell people what the facts are. Because wolfmen are men, actual men like myself.
Like West Virginia.
Who were raised like wolves and have wolf-like qualities, but are still humans. And dogmen are completely different species.
Absolutely.
Such as Remus and Romulus, the founders of Rome?
Yes.
Huh?
Very cool. So, yeah. Anyways, that's really all we have to say about dogmen, I think. So I think we're going to get into the next creature.
All right. I'm ready for it. All right. So it looks like we've got queued up in the database. This one is a pretty heavy hitter. Not as well known as a lot of things, but there's some pretty spooky images.
Yeah.
I'm getting cold sweats right here in the studio.
They're funky looking.
I'm glad I'm wearing my brown pants today. And
oh, man.
This very scary creature known as the Flatwoods Monster.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, this creature is coming from West Virginia. So, more specifically, of course, Flatwoods, West Virginia. But it's also been spotted in Frametown, West Virginia, which is about approximately 2.5 to 3 hours from Harrisonburg, depending on the traffic. But anyways, I guess I'll start out with the description of this creature. Typically 10 feet tall, so outrageously large, and 4 feet wide. But interestingly enough, a lot of people, when they see this, dare I say, the Flatwoods Monster.
You dare to say it.
Yeah. they typically describe it as looking like a robotic suit, rather than an actual organic being. So the head sort of looks like I'm judging off of a picture that we have here, sketched by one of our Wixjam artists. So it looks a lot like the head is similar to a shiny oval type shape with very large green or red piercing arms. There's been a little bit of I guess you could say dissent among people who are describing the eyes. Different colors have been described. Perhaps
sometimes glowing, sometimes not.
Yeah. Perhaps based on mood, but we'll get into that a little later. Anyways, behind this head, it has a large cowl, I guess you could say, which is the shape of the Ace of Spades, which is very interesting. And the body looks a lot like a metallic armored structure created from thick vertical pipes, I guess you could say. Now, the arms of this creature do look sort of biological, I guess you could say, green, similar in shape, actually, to T-Rex type arms, but of course, long. The creature is 10 feet after all, so it has to have fairly long arms. But its bottom half, instead of legs, is similar to an armored skirt, I guess you could say, that goes all the way to the ground. So yeah, that's the basic description of the creature. Really, not the easiest thing to describe. I would suggest you look up the Flatwoods Monster. There are some great pictures.
This
online.
thing for sure looks like some sort of it's as if Mad Libs designed a monster.
Yeah.
And my goodness, some people really have tried to draw it.
Yeah.
And
they've really given it their all.
I also heard that this monster can fly.
Yeah.
Oh, it floats. It hovers. It emits mist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Poisonous mist, mind you.
Wow.
I don't know if that's in your section of the database, Dan, but I was reading that those who reported seeing it had diagnosed throat and nose inflammation.
Wow.
And reactions for weeks afterwards.
Very interesting.
And their effects were similar to those of mustard gas. So,
very interesting. You know, it's possible. I think before I start diving into explanations and why this thing could be emitting gas that harms people, I think I'm going to get into one of the classic sightings, actually the first sighting of the Flatwoods Monster. This was a while ago, September 12th, 1952. There was 3 little boys who were hanging out at their farmhouse in West Virginia, as you do. And in the sky, you know, they were sort of looking out the window, and they noticed in the sky a bright object, falling, similar to a shooting star. But as they watched it, they realized that it wasn't light years away. It was actually falling to Earth. And so it hit the ground on a hill relatively close to the house, but it didn't make a loud explosion or anything. So the boys went to check it out. Of course, it's 1952.
What else are you going to do?
Yeah.
right.
You know, your parents
Play
aren't...
with the old stick and hoop in the front yard.
Yeah.
Your parents are out there farming.
Yeah.
You're going to go adventure.
It's 7:15 at night. That's when this happened. This is a very well-documented account.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, it's 7:15. It's 1952. Your parents aren't going to care if you're going to run out and go check out a hill with an alien ship on it, because there's nothing else to do in West Virginia besides mine coal. So anyways, you go out to this hill. Well, I shouldn't say you. These 3 boys, they went out to this hill, and their dog actually went with them, and it ran ahead barking, but it quickly ran back to the group of boys with its tail in between its legs, whimpering, which is very interesting. And anyways, on
dogs only do that when they're scared.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a fact. And so on this hill, there was a large. They described it as a ball of fire, which is very interesting. A lot of times, that's the way that UFOs are described when they're seen up close.
And talking bushes. You know, there's a famous book that has a talking burning ball of fire in it.
Yeah. I think that's
Can't remember the name.
Pilgrim's Progress. Either that,
the Bible.
Or, yeah,
that's
one.
the big one.
Yeah, one of those. Anyways,
either way, not of this world.
Yeah,
is what we're going for.
Yeah, basically, they see this flaming ball on top of the hill. It's definitely not of this world, and so they start approaching it. You know, they're hesitant, so they shine their flashlights toward it, and the flashlights cast a glow upon the creature that we previously described, this Flatwoods Monster, and
in all its glory.
Yeah, and it let out this shrill sort of noise that, of course, it hurt the dog's ears, so the dog ran away whining, and it hurt the boy's ears as well. And so, of course, this creature started gliding towards them, and in fear, they ran away as fast as they could. And upon reaching the house, they looked back, and it was gone. It was very interesting. And they contacted the sheriff, and the sheriff came and investigated. Local news was there, and they found where the flaming ball had been. There was burn marks on the ground, and in the entire area, there was a sort of metallic smell, which is very interesting. And so this really plays on the theory that the Flatwoods Monster is perhaps an alien, maybe testing out some sort of suit that allows it to live on Earth more easily.
Right. Well, I'm just going to tell him it's not worth it.
Yeah.
We don't have anything good here.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
well,
if he's got that sort of metallic suit and being able to scare people that easily.
Yeah.
I mean, he should just stay where he came from.
I got to agree with that.
That base is probably much more technologically advanced.
I agree with that, Rob. That's a good observation. And, technology is something that, something we all like and enjoy. But if you got the ability to blast a fireball into a hillside and shoot spraying mist out of your metallic suit and do crazy stuff like that, I mean, I really don't see what more we have to offer besides the Xbox and ice cream sandwich.
Hardee's and Carl's Jr.
Amen.
All right, that's a good point. You got me
he
there.
He was landing in West Virginia. So
a lot of Hardee's.
A ton of Hardee's.
That is a good spot.
Yeah.
All right. The time is now, oh boy,
7:45. Coming upon the end of the show, folks.
Right. This is 7:45. We got a nice 15 minutes left. But this is Sam from the Sam and Dan Show, and
this
I'm
is
going to be
Dan.
giving you the weather. All right. So it's 84 degrees right now and sunny. Things haven't really changed since the last time I reported the weather, but we're going to have a low of 54 tonight. Tomorrow, Thursday, is going to be partly cloudy with a high of 89 and a low of 59. And Friday, we're going to have a little bit more of the same, partly sunny with a high of 85 and a low of 58. And this Saturday and Sunday are going to be a little drizzly, so that's going to be a high of about 70 and lows in the 50s. And we now return back to your regularly scheduled broadcasting, except it's not regularly scheduled because this is the Sam and Dan Show 2-hour season finale.
Boom.
Yep.
And
irregularly scheduled.
Mm-hmm. And we're talking the Flatwoods Monster. We already covered probably the biggest sighting of the creature, but there have been hundreds of sightings, and they all describe the creature in the same way, which is very interesting. And interestingly enough, they actually all describe a sort of metallic odor and a burning sensation in their lungs and their nose. And I say it's possible that whatever the Flatwoods Monster is, perhaps an alien in some sort of suit, maybe in order to allow the alien to live on Earth, it has to convert the oxygen into some sort of gas that the alien could breathe easier. And perhaps some of that escapes, and it's not something that as humans we're designed to breathe in.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Very possible.
That's pretty logical to me. I mean, I'm just saying, this seems like quite a lot of effort to go through to describe this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And just the odds of multiple people seeing the same mysterious, steamy, metallic, glowing-eyed, spade-headed. It's just way too complicated.
Yeah.
Right. Way too complicated to have been
it's a very unique
different
description.
things.
Yeah.
For people to make up and to be a coincidence is very rare.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That, at a certain point when you have so many coincidences, you can't call them coincidences anymore.
You call them facts.
Yeah, you call them facts. And so, yeah, I'd say the Flatwoods Monster, very interesting creature, likely an alien. If I had to guess on the race of this alien, I would probably lean towards reptilian, judging from the arms.
Mm-hmm. Long, spindly, cold, clammy arms.
Yeah, and from the size. Greys, of course, typically only 2 to 3 feet. Reptilians can be anywhere from 6 to 8 feet. So it's likely the suit adds a couple of feet on. Perhaps he's wearing stilettos or pumps or something.
Or the hovering aspect.
Yeah, or moon shoes. He is from space. So, yeah, I'd say it's likely a reptilian of some sort. As for why it's touching down in West Virginia, really no explanation for that. Perhaps there's some sort of base there that we don't know about, or perhaps they're interested in the coal, which is really,
I mean, those metallic suits may be powered by coal.
Very likely.
That's
extremely
a good point.
likely.
There's lots of energy in coal, and if I were to design a spaceship that was landing in West Virginia, I would definitely want to exploit that coal power.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, West Virginia was also the site of another cryptid that we covered that was very critical to, our early broadcast.
Yeah.
And a huge, huge member of popular culture.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you remember Mothman.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
We're all very familiar.
So Mothman, I believe, was one of the recordings we made that did not actually record, sadly. But,
Shame.
Right, that was a great informative broadcast. And I think it seems like this creature, the Flatwoods Monster and Mothman, could potentially be rivals.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rob, you've seen some cryptids duke it out out in society, as we've been discussing a little bit earlier on this show. So who do you think would win in a fight between Mothman and the Flatwoods Monster?
It's hard to say. You'd have home field advantage would have to go to Mothman. Of course.
Absolutely.
That's where they live.
Yeah,
of course,
where they're from. Much more the Mothman, of course, much more mobile. Probably just better kind of just perception, being able to see things. Well, but the metallic
because he is a moth. Moths are known for being able to see very well.
See goodly.
Yeah. But the Flatwood Monster, I mean, having a metallic suit that can spray poison, and it's hard to say if the Mothman would be immune to the poison, and if it is, then Mothman would have to.
Well, if you remember, Mothman actually inhabits a chemical weapons disposal site.
That is true.
So where humans cannot go, as sort of a protective measure. So it's possible, given that it's all right. So the effects of the gas were related to mustard gas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the site where Mothman lives is a World War I weapon dump.
Yes.
Which could include mustard gas. So I think I'm definitely saying that Mothman would have a pretty strong advantage over the Flatwoods Monster's primary, strength.
Yeah, I mean, the Flatwood Monster is very large, but so is Mothman. And the thing with the Flatwood Monster is just extremely, I guess, just clunky and very unagile. I think it would be hard to keep up with the Mothman.
Yeah, very likely.
Because
absolutely.
The poison gas is a radius effect. So if the Mothman just stays away, there's nothing that the metallic suit can do.
Perhaps drop rocks on him, or just hit him with his powerful eyes. That's what Mothman's known with, the ability to stun with his mighty eyes. It's very possible the Flatwoods Monster would have a tough time standing up to Mothman, especially because Mothman is known as one of the baddest cryptids in town.
Right. And a friend of humankind.
And a friend.
As we discussed.
Yeah.
And it seems like the Flatwoods Monster is, in fact, not very friendly at all. And, Dan, I don't know if you covered the reptilian appearance that it took on in later sightings.
No, I haven't. I spoke at the possibility of it being a reptilian.
Right.
In a suit. But
it says here, all right, so in our database, there are actually further reports. So chronologically later on, further sightings of this, same creature, it had the same bottom piece, this floating metallic skirt structure, pretty high fashion stuff. But they had the same thing going on downtown. Replaced the upper body part with a reptilian humanoid creature sort of encased in this robotic bottom section. And, still emitting this mist, but missing its defensive robotic upper part. So I think, and the sighting stopped after a couple times after this reptilian one was found. I think possibly Mothman was slowly picking away at the defenses of this invader trying to protect us, and succeeded in destroying part of its robot suit and possibly its spacecraft, which is why it had to move to the next town over. And Mothman relentlessly pursued the Flatwoods Monster before destroying it completely in order to help out his human friends.
Yeah.
That sounds like the Mothman.
Yeah, that sounds like something the Mothman would do. He's definitely a friend of humankind, and he's always got our best interest in mind. So, wow. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the most likely explanation for the disappearance of the Flatwoods Monster and why the Mothman is still seen to this day. He probably got the business.
It's really the only logical sense. And perhaps now Mothman has probably repurposed the Flatwoods Monster's suit to be a sort of humidifier for his cave to keep it at a nice optimal moth living.
Yeah.
Humidity.
Yeah, moisture level.
Perfect. Yeah. Definitely very likely.
I wouldn't put it past them. All right, so 7:55.
We got 5 minutes left.
Right. All right. I think we've got time for the last cryptid on our list.
Yeah, I think we can sort of chug along through this one.
Rob, I know that you are an absolute expert on the Mongolian death worm.
Oh yeah.
So
it is something, not just an expert in it. It's something I love.
Yeah.
I mean,
he does.
It's your passion.
Yeah. I mean, Mothman is fantastic, but Mongolian death worm just has that pizzazz.
You know,
that
like Emerald says, bam.
Yeah, the unspeakable quality that you just love about cryptids.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is like you would imagine a worm, animal,
a deadly one.
Very deadly.
Yes, very. Oh, yes.
You can't emphasize enough how deadly this creature is, and if you'll allow me to dive in, so the general description for this creature, anywhere from 2 to 5 feet long, which you may be thinking, that's not the biggest thing in the world, whatever. Flatwoods Monster's 10 foot tall. But anyways, it's also been described as really thick-bodied. So imagine a tree trunk size thickness.
Yeah.
That's a pretty thick worm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Rob is fairly knowledgeable about why this worm is considered dangerous. Rob, could you speak to that a little bit?
I mean, like you said, the death worm is a very, very large worm-like creature.
Extremely large.
And that could do a lot of it, because it might just look kind of like a blob of whatever.
Worm.
But extremely muscular, extremely strong.
Yoked.
And if it gets a hold of something, it's not letting go.
No, absolutely not.
And it has very, very few weaknesses. The only weakness you probably say is its mobility. It's very slow.
Yeah.
But
it is a worm.
Or perhaps a giant bird, if a giant bird was there.
Mothman.
Again, Mothman, protector of the human race.
Right, so, that's a long way to go, though.
It is a long way, since the Mongolian death worm is...
He's in the Gobi Desert.
In the Gobi Desert.
Extremely far away.
Where you'd expect.
It's a little far from West Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little far.
And it's also, the death worm, one of its main ways of attacking is its ability to spit poison, which is very interesting. And also, its body's covered in a thick sort of slimy poison that is supposedly so deadly, one touch and you'll die within minutes, which is perhaps why it's been given the name death worm. A single touch and you're done for.
Yeah.
But anyways, this worm...
That makes sense. I mean, I don't know what else you would call it.
Yeah. I mean, there really is no other description for it. So this worm, it sort of travels through the sands of the Gobi Desert, and the vibrations it makes in the sand, well, I should say the vibrations other creatures make in the sand are how it senses them. So if you're walking along, each step you take, it sort of has a wave effect in the sand that the Mongolian death worm senses, and that, of course, is how it finds its prey. And there's been actual multiple investigations into this worm in 1990 and 1992. Ivan Mackerel, he led a small group of investigators into the Gobi Desert to search for this worm, and they brought along with them this sort of rhythmic thumping machine that was supposed to cause, steady thumps into the sand.
Oh, a big old subwoofer.
Yeah, absolutely, to attract the death worm to it. And, of course, the death worm, perhaps a little too smart for this sort of lame
He was
attempt.
up to their ruse. He knows the difference between a man-made sound and a prey sound that they would go after.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
They're not dumb. They're not dumb animals.
And I don't think the Mongolian death worm even eats humans.
No.
That's not listed in there. It probably just eats sand. So I don't know why it would want to come hang out with a large thumping sound.
There used to be a huge problem.
Yeah.
In the Gobi Desert. That's why it's very it's vacant now. Nobody's really around in the Gobi Desert.
Yeah.
One, because it's really hot, of course. It's
Yeah, that's also a reason.
Besides
but
the
the Mongolian
death
death worm, I mean, there's a lot of nomadic tribes in the Gobi Desert before.
Yeah.
But they all had to move because the death worm was causing trouble. People would just touching the slime it left behind and dying.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah, and the thing about the death worm, it's not trying to take out these people, but it just sort of happens because it's just so dang deadly.
I think maybe the death worm was a little wise to what was going down. Maybe it didn't originally live in the Gobi Desert, but it decided so many people were enticed by its large sausage-like stature that they just wanted to touch it, and just kept dying. So it voluntarily exiled itself to an uninhabitable part of the earth. In fact, we've got a quote here from the Mongolian Prime Minister.
Hot dog.
Damdin Bazar, and he described the worm in one of his biographies. It says it is shaped like a sausage, about 2 feet long, has no head nor leg, and it is so poisonous that merely to touch it means instant death. Yep.
Very dangerous stuff.
It lives in the most desolate parts of the Gobi Desert.
Mm.
So, I mean, definitely not the kind of thing you want to wake up with at the foot of your bed because you'll die.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I think that's really all that we have for the Mongolian deathworm. There's not a whole lot of reports of it taking people out, although there have been written records in the past. No recent attacks, although it has been noted that the Mongolian deathworm has attacked camels and sort of laid eggs inside of the camels, which is very interesting.
Is that why they have those gigantic humps on them, perhaps?
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe.
I would say definitely. I can't think of any other reason why they would have those humps.
Yeah, I mean, it seems very unaerodynamic for a creature.
Of course, yeah. Especially when it's really windy. You want to be as aero as possible.
Yeah, those sandstorms. I mean,
yeah. Anyways, time is now 8:01. This was the final episode of the Sam and Dan Show. It's been a wild ride, folks.
Yeah, for sure. This was honestly one of the best experiences I've had at JMU. Running the Sam and Dan Show with my co-host Dan and occasional
West Virginia
co-host Rob.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been a real treat. Thanks to all the listeners out there who've been supporting us. We appreciate all you. And, yeah.
Everything you do. Thanks for all the fan mail you've sent us. All the gifts that you've delivered.
The fan art.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yep. I've
the
loved
fan fiction.
The portraits I've gotten of myself.
Very spicy.
A lot of that was me. But
well, you have a way with words, West Virginia.
All right. So, yeah, thanks for everyone who calls in and listens in every week. You are the rock. We are just the person holding the rock, I guess.
Yeah, like Atlas.
You could say. Right, exactly. And, it's been cool.
Yeah. So signing off, this is the Sam and Dan Show at WXJM Harrisonburg. Peace out, y'all.
88.7 on your FM dial.
Later.
Have a great summer, everybody.